The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Media Mash, a roundtable of Cowboys insiders dropping wisdom and offering sizzling takes on the current state of your Dallas Cowboys. Now, your host, Newy Scruggs.
So what do you get when you get a Kevin, a Hek'ma, a Nick, and a Jon in one room? You get a media mash. Come on, guys. That was a lob, all right? But I got Jon Machota, and I'm not going to say you're from Atlanta. I'm going to say you're from the Atlantic because I think that's what I said last time. I said Jon Machota from Atlanta.
No, I think you said the Atlantic instead of
Did I?
The Athletic.
I swear to God, I thought you said you were from the SWATs or something like that. And my man Kevin Gray from 105.3 The Fan.
Sir?
What it do, brother? How are you?
I'm good,
Good
man.
to be in here with you. And some guy named Nick Eatman.
What's up, man?
What's up, baby? What's going on, man? Hey, listen, when you're on with me, it's going to be all energy. So if you came in here low, if you wasn't feeling good, I'm sorry. You got to break it up a bit. It's going to be like this for 45 minutes. But when I do a show, I ask the same question. I'm sorry. I just check on my people, make sure everybody's fine. Check on your mentals to see how you're doing. How's your mind? You're not, everything is good in the hood. Nick, I'll start with you. How are you today, sir?
Oh, man, I'm doing exceptionally well. Thanks for asking. And, people say it all the time. You've seen it all, right? And I was like, no, I have not seen a Super Bowl, NFC Championship game, or a road Cowboys win in the playoffs.
Hadn't seen that. You've been here for a while, though.
24th season, never seen them win on the road.
Oh, man.
Just saying.
Saying it's high time, huh?
Be nice to flip the script.
Yeah. Let's start this off positive. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm good, man. This is the second of 3 jobs that I'm working today. So I got a radio show at 7 o'clock tonight on 105 through
Awesome.
The Fan. So doing a lot of working today, but I'm happy to be here,
like
man.
Chris Arnold back in the day.
If Chris can make it, 40-plus years in the business, I can do half as good as him, then I'm doing okay.
He has many jobs.
Yes.
Jon, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, man. No complaints. I agree with Nick. I haven't been covering the team as long as him, but it would be nice to cover some of those things he mentioned. I'll even take it less than that, maybe just seeing him beat Tom Brady, one of those.
Oh, yeah.
things,
That's another one.
Defeating Tom Brady, that'd be fun.
Outside of
That'd
that,
be
no,
fun.
I'm doing good.
Doing good.
How about you? How are you doing?
Man, I'm wonderful. What are
Yep.
you talking? I'm here with y'all, man. Good, baby. No complaints. I got to get reactions for you guys from last night's college football game. There was a college football game last night.
Is that what that was?
That was what that was.
Oh,
and
okay.
come on, guys, help me out here. I don't want to put a negative spin on this. I wanted to, really kind of feel how you felt while you were watching it, Jon. 65-7, what do you got?
Just to be completely honest, so I'm a diehard Florida State football fan. And I can tell you right now, if you told me Florida State could make the national championship game, but they have to get blown out by that, I'd say I don't want to make the national championship game. I would rather not make the national championship game than have that happen. That's how I felt watching that. I'm like, all the good mojo you got from a great season like that, and yes, that is amazing. But to do that in that big of a moment, I'd have a hard time with 35-7. But when you start getting in the 60s,
60?
Hey, people are listening, TCU fans. You can say whatever you want, and that's fine. But I know that there's plenty of you listening out there that agree with me. That there's a part of you that's just like, maybe if we just went and ended it after the Michigan game, we'd be fine with it.
I think the thing that stood out to me the most was the speed and the athleticism difference between both teams was on full display last night. And the SEC proved once again why they are head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to college football, because Max Duggan was under siege all night last night. And so much so even the backup dudes for Georgia were getting after him. So, yeah, the SEC's dominance was just proven.
How long did it take you to see that difference in athleticism?
Probably after Brock Bowers was a monster in the first half. He had a couple of catches on the first drive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this is what time it is tonight for Georgia and TCU.
And he did make a huge impact against Ohio State. Not the impact that you thought he would.
Yeah.
So when he came out early and they were going to him, I was like, oof.
And what's scary about Bowers
sign.
is he's just a sophomore. That's frightening. He's just a sophomore.
Yeah, one more year. Man, he'll be out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, and I've taken a lot of grief about this in the last few weeks because I said it publicly that Alabama deserved to go in over TCU.
Absolutely.
That's what I felt. I know that's what Vegas felt. I mean, Vegas, they just felt this is a better football team. But they lost their games. They lost the 2, road games, whatever. I also thought if TCU was in like the SEC, they would play the December 7th, bowl game. Just the way that they played, I just didn't think that they belonged on the same stage. And for everything that happened, like this is such a cool story. 'Cause, the reason why it was such a cool story is the reason why it ended the way it did, because they just didn't belong. But no one did, to be honest. No one in the SEC could really do that. Missouri, give them credit. They
right,
had a game.
That's right.
They did.
That's right.
But Missouri's a below average team.
Right. Yes, we were.
With a below average record.
Yes.
I mean, that's the way it is. But Georgia wanted to win so bad, and they wanted to make a statement, and man, they did.
Nick, there was nothing in that TCU-Michigan game that you saw from TCU.
Yeah.
The way that they put it on Michigan. Did you say like the light bulb come on a little bit that they could win that game?
I was mad at the committee, honestly. Put Michigan and Ohio State against each other because that's what they're supposed to do, 2 versus 3. TCU, if you're going to keep them in, they're definitely the 4. They got to play number 1. It doesn't matter if Michigan and Ohio State had already played 2-3. I mean, it doesn't matter.
But you know what they wanted, though. They wanted the Michigan-Ohio State National Championship game. That's where all the money, all the ratings come in at.
My big argument with all that stuff that I got an argument with Clarence about this last week is back in the workroom as I go, and when it comes to college basketball and college football, like the Cinderella, it just doesn't win it all. Cinderella can get to the final ball. Cinderella does not win it all. And so he starts coming at me with some Villanova 80 stuff. I'm talking modern era, like in the last 20, 30 years. Butler has gotten to the national championship game twice. They've gotten close. I mean, they almost hit a half-court shot to win the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But in the end, Cinderella does not win it all. It hasn't in a long time. It's back. You have to go mid-'80s since that's happened.
Yeah, is it bad that I remember that game?
No, and that's fine. But if you're
way back when,
I'm just saying it's not somewhere I'm just like, let me just go ahead and change all my thinking.
You're right.
I think that this Villanova, I mean, look at the way college sports are played nowadays. To even compare anything to the way it was in the 80s is silly to me.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen that way anymore. And if I want to make you feel bad, Phil Collins in the air tonight turned 42 today. So
the song
turned 42.
The song that made everybody in the whole world thinks that they're a drummer. That song. They've never had drumsticks in their life, but other than chicken. But when that happens, everyone you look. I always turn and look at like in the crowd, or whatever, and some guy is just like
air drummer.
Yeah, hitting the girl next to him.
Yeah.
Well, guys, look, this is. I wanted to get your reaction. It hadn't had a media mash since the Sunday loss in Washington, D.C. to the Commanders. And if you guys heard the interview today on 105.3 with owner and general manager Jerry Jones, and he specifically stated when asked about Mike McCarthy, about his job security in the event of a complete Chernobyl meltdown this Monday, his words were emphatically, no! Don't even want to go into it. Don't even want to talk about it. Guys, when you heard that, and obviously knowing everything that's at stake and the way that this season has gone, do you put faith in that no, or do you feel as though this Monday is very pivotal to Mike McCarthy?
That statement meant absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, just on the baseline of what is an owner going to say in that situation? I mean, I guess there is a possibility that you could say,
Mike got to get out here and coach for his job on Monday night.
Then you're out of a job. But that is very, very unlikely. I mean, the chances of an owner saying that in any sport right before your biggest game of the year and really the biggest game they're going to have played in a long time, that would be a lot for him to say that. And Jerry Jones is notorious for telling you that just because I said it doesn't make it so. And so, if they went and, I'll just say this, the way that if it looks like it did in D.C. next Monday in Tampa, nothing that Jerry said today is going to matter on how he's going to feel Monday night, Tuesday morning. What were you going to say, sir?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. And another thing is, do you think that anyone in the media will ask the players tomorrow in the locker room this week, like, Jerry Jones said that he's got faith in Mike McCarthy. What do you think? I don't think anybody would ask that question. But if he said, go win it, let's see.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a question in there, and then it becomes a distraction. So you're right. There's just not. You're not going to say anything other than, yeah, I have confidence in the team and all that, because I do believe he has confidence they will go and beat the Bucs this week.
Yeah, I think my thing is Mike McCarthy wasn't brought here to win games from September to December. His resume says that he can get this done beyond January.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen for a second year in a row, and you let a guy who's 2 years short of an AARP card, piece you up on Monday Night Football, then I don't know what we're doing here when it comes to McCarthy. And I think what the job that he's done the last couple of years has been remarkable. I mean, 24 wins the last 2 years. I mean, that's fantastic. But at the same time, he was brought here to win deep into the playoffs, and there should be real conversations, I think, about his job status if that doesn't happen on Monday night.
And Nick, I'll ask you this. I mean, you've as close to the team as you are, just knowing Mike, the way that he's, gotten this team to perform. This is another 12-5 season. We've been through the abysmal seasons for the Dallas Cowboys, the proverbial perpetual 500 endings of seasons. Here you have Mike McCarthy coming in and basically building this team the way that it is. Do you look at that question even as an insult for a guy that's pretty much getting you to this position now in back-to-back playoff appearances?
You can be insulting if you want, but the reason why the question was asked is because Jerry has a history of not only doing this. He fired Chan Gailey after 2 playoff years. He also did not answer the question last year when he was asked afterwards about it. So the reason why it got asked is because Jerry might give you the answer that you want to hear. Do I think it's fair for Mike? No, I don't. Do I think he should lose his job? No. The players love him. That's the thing. The players love him because he takes care of the players. He takes care of their bodies. He understands them and he relates to them. And he also has done a nice job. We talked about this on the break this morning. Of the 50 games he's played, I think we counted a full season, pretty much 16 games without your starting quarterback.
Right.
And he's done a good job of getting this team rallied together. So no, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a fair question really for him. But I understand why they did it. I know the guys that did it, and I don't blame them for asking it. But I just don't think it should be asked. Yeah. But we know why it was.
I'm also not a big believer in. It didn't go where we wanted. Coach, you're gone.
Yeah,
you got to have a plan. And so my next part of my plan is, if you want him out or you think he should be gone, who do you want? Because there aren't obvious answers out there. Sorry, there just aren't. When I get these odds sent to me every morning on favorite for Colts job, favorite for Broncos job, I roll through them and there's not one name that pops out where I'm like, ooh, if the Cowboys could get their hands on that guy, that would, man, if they could only get Jim Harbaugh in the building, we just turn it all around, like there's just there's just not that obvious answer there. And as I'm a fan of Sean Payton, I think Sean Payton's a good coach, but I don't know that there's if they're standing there together and they're like, you can hire either one, Mike McCarthy or Sean Payton, it's very close to me to begin with, let alone the fact that now you got to give up picks and then make him the highest coach ever? Like, wait, no, I'm good.
Change everything?
Yeah, like I'm all set. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other part, is just change everything that you have going on. So if there was some... like you were around when, and obviously you guys have seen it, when they went and got Parcells. I mean, that's a clear cut. You go and get, it's like, this is obvious. I mean, if you get a chance to get Parcells, you go get him or something. Or let's say Sean McVay led the Rams to the Super Bowl this year again. They won back-to-back. And you're like, man, Sean McVay says he's leaving the Rams. He just always wanted to coach the Cowboys. Coming off of 2 consecutive Super Bowl wins, it'd be hard to. I'm sorry, when you look at those odds, they're just hard to look at them and be like, oh, this guy's the answer right here. Go get that guy.
I just feel like there's just a sense of urgency because this team's going to look very different going into next year. And you could be without your defensive coordinator. Personnel changes could be made. So the pressure, I think, is on McCarthy to get something done, at least a playoff win or 2, because this team could look very different.
And Kevin, I think that's interesting that you go there, because that's where it's talking about guys that players love, and that's Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, but I hear it, and all the grumblings and rumors have started to the voices are starting to say his name at the top of these coaching vacancies that you see. Kevin, what do you think when you start to understand that Dan Quinn may not be your DC, even if Mike McCarthy is here as your coach next year?
I mean, my hope is if Dan Quinn isn't here next year, that Joe Witt becomes the new defensive coordinator here to keep the continuity going and that he remains on the staff. But I'm under the operation that Dan Quinn won't be here beyond this year because his name is just too hot right now, and I think he's got himself in the position to be able to be one of these next head coaches here in this cycle.
Yeah, I don't see him going outside the building. I think it would be either Witt or George Edwards. That would make the most sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they both are in line for a job like that, and they both know all the personnel. I mean, heck, when they signed Rhodes, on Saturday, I was thinking, I'm like, man, this is like George Edwards.
Edwards,
They're just going to get Anthony Barr, Rose,
Circa Vikings
Anthony Alexander,
2015.
J-Ron Curse.
Chris
I'm probably
Coleman.
missing one. Yeah, Chris Nolan, yeah, exactly.
John Randall come out every time.
I think they would do it. I think it would stay inside the building. Don't you, Nick? Or do you not?
Yeah, it also depends on if Quinn leaves. Like, who is he taking
True.
with
Does
him?
he take somebody with him?
And does he take? Can he be the coordinator there and all that? And do they have a Micah Parsons where where he's going or whatever? But that would be the one thing. That's where I thought you guys were going with this. Is the one thing that could change all of this about McCarthy is the Dan Quinn stuff, because you're like, all right, let's say it doesn't go well.
Well, there's a reason I didn't bring that up, but go ahead.
Right, I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't know. I'm watching these games. It ain't the same way as it was last year. Where I'm just like, no, this has to stay the same. I mean,
Right.
if it goes to the direction where we're talking, where it would be a loss to Tampa Bay, I don't know if there's anybody in the building, that I'm like, no, don't let that. You can't let that person go.
Right.
On top of, again, I'm not just going off of, there's something to be said for 2009 Saints, where they are just rolling 13-0, and then they lose their last 3 games, and then they lose in the playoffs. You're like, it just kind of got off. Like, this would be the second year in a row where it started tailing off like this. That would be the second year you're losing the first round. At that point, there is nobody outside of, Micah Parsons that I'm not like, no, you could never part with. There's nobody. I'm sorry.
The thing for him is if he doesn't have him ready to play in this game, because he didn't have him ready last year against the 49ers, and that's why
Washington.
Yeah, Washington, right? But I'm talking about in this playoff game,
yeah.
And that's why when I look at what happened against Washington the other day, does it carry over? I mean, last year it didn't. I mean,
right.
they were rolling into the playoffs, and it certainly didn't carry over into the playoffs. So that's what their hope is that. But he's got to have him ready to play there. But the Dan Quinn part is kind of interesting to me for what Jerry is paying him a lot of money. Don't know exactly what, but paying him a lot of money to be here. And if it doesn't work out in this game, you just wonder. I don't think it would be McCarthy though. Maybe the coordinator, maybe one of the coordinators, though. So there will have to be a change, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to dance around. There will be a change if it doesn't go well. I just don't think it would be McCarthy, though.
Yeah.
That'd be wild. Let's just say either one of the coordinators go, you would get rid of one of them who's got his defense number one in takeaways and turnover differential in back-to-back years. The other one had the number one offense and the number 2 offense in back-to-back years in the NFL. It's just wild to think about the changes that could be made based on the amount of success that both coordinators have had the last 2 years around here.
The potential to lose 2, I'm sure, is the not the move for the Dallas Cowboys, but it potentially is on the horizon and it could happen.
And I know we got to go to break. I'll just say this. There's 23 free agents, I think, 23 unrestricted guys. So especially on the defensive side of the ball, with like say Dan Quinn leaves, I mean he's gonna have to take a few with him as well. Those guys that love to play for him. So that's going to be another challenge too, is re-signing these guys that have to compete with him.
But he can't take Micah.
I can't.
But he can't take Micah.
Can't take Diggs.
No, can't take Diggs. Can't take Micah. And
I'll tell you, he's going to take. I can tell you right now.
Curse.
Wilson.
Donovan Wilson.
Dono.
From what I was told in the offseason, he actually told some people, Dan Quinn, that this guy right here, we don't use him enough, we don't play him enough, and I've got some packages for him that I think he could be really good this year. And so, obviously, he did lead the team in tackles this year. Van Der Esch got hurt, and he led the team in tackles, but. I mean,
no sacks by a defensive back this year too.
Yeah, tied. Yeah, almost franchise record, 5 for a safety.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, but that just shows he used them in different ways. So.
Talk about a resurgence of a career, Donovan Wilson. He was a guy that was looked at as a bubble guy for a lot of camps.
Yeah.
And has turned his career around in this year. So maybe he will be another one of those guys that we lose. And you talk about Kevin and his team looking different, but I am keeping the media mash on the tracks. Yes, we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back with more Media Mash here on DallasCowboys.com.
Back to Media Mash.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field. United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf. For winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Back to Media Mash.
Dak Prescott and your Dallas Cowboys are headed to Tampa Bay to take on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in the wild card round of the 2022 NFL playoffs. Come out to the Miller Lite Lighthouse at AT&T Stadium for a free wild card watch party on Monday, January 16th. Cheer on the boys alongside the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and rowdy while enjoying lawn games, food trucks, music, and more. Gates open at 5:30 p.m. and kickoff is at 7:15. For more information, visit DallasCowboys.com/2022 playoffs.
You killed that, man. I would have messed up at least 2 or 3 words.
It's my second time reading
it. Okay.
I did stumble the first time.
Doesn't matter. I could read it 12 times. I promise you I'd mess up something.
Man, John, you too kind. John from Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, back here on Media Mash, and Newey Scruggs will be back from Los Angeles after TCU took that destroying. So what a game that was.
Did you see his tweets from off the game? How he was talking about how they had to hand out blankets because again, now it's technically an outdoor stadium.
Oh, it was getting. Oh, yeah.
And then so there's like rain blowing in, so it was like super slippery out on the concourses. People were falling. They just were not used to, like, the rain was coming in sideways off of how it's open behind the 2 end zones. And so to the media they were handing out blankets because it was like 50 degrees in there or something like that. Clearly they did not plan for any of that to be there.
Wow.
I've been to training camp in Oxnard for 17, 18 years. I mean, it's rained one time.
Yeah, and when it does, it's a very short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's LA, but
yeah,
it's pretty biblical when it rains like that.
I mean,
people started looking for the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I thought there was a song.
No, that's a lie. That's clearly that's all made up, Nick, because it did.
Well, just so you know, Patrick Walker usually does this show on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And Newey usually does the show on Tuesday, but Newey's not here until tomorrow.
Right.
And Newey's apparently has done some talking on TCU, so Patrick, I think, wanted to be on the show tomorrow. So we traded so he could be on
that's
it.
nice of you,
I want to be here for that.
And then
that's nice.
Maybe if it comes up, they would talk about the Georgia.
I thought it was me. I thank you for saying that.
No. He
Well, your boy was in full Georgia regalia today on Talking Cowboys, so he was all good to go.
Yeah,
today.
Yeah,
and yesterday.
and yesterday.
He told me. Patrick, is a huge Georgia fan, and he may be listening right now. What's up, man? He said they went after the game, Ohio State game, which he admitted was as close as it gets and too close for comfort. But he said we'll win 55-10. I was like, wow. 55-10. He's like, yeah, we will absolutely destroy them 55-10 because the way that our team will play, we'll be so focused. We'll just play.
Well, he shorted them 10 points. Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was like, but he was right. I mean, they dominated them.
That was ugly.
It is kind of funny too, though, that from the Vegas perspective, you keep it at 13, 14 points.
And I thought that line was disrespectful to TCU.
That's what I was going to say, because just for comparison's sake, folks, that's like comparing it to, that was the line for that 49ers-Arizona game on Sunday. That was the line for that Eagles-Giants game.
Yeah.
Just to give you, so Vegas clearly didn't buy into the whole idea of like, what a Cinderella story. This would be so
Hell no. You got to fool us with that one.
Not as much purple in the office today as yesterday.
There was more purple in the stadium than I was expecting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an expensive, the whole deal, the flight, the hotel, the
Travel
ticket.
well.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Then they were the dominant in the where was it? Arizona when they beat Michigan. They definitely had the advantage there. I think Newey said 60-70% was probably TCU fans. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, speaking of traveling well, we are going to need to travel well on Monday. We need to fix this. And obviously, you guys have been seeing this team for 17 games so far and have been here on the cusp of playoffs last season. Where does this team, to you, obviously after the Commanders lost, you're probably in the same place with a bunch of question marks. But going into the playoffs, fresh seasons, what is your expectation going into Monday's game? Are you seeing a victory, or are you one of those people that are on the fence and saying, this could be Tom Brady making the last stand?
I completely get where people would make the argument that this could be a good thing because, one, how they've responded from losses this year, and then two, just the fact of that could be something where you're embarrassed. And there's just you just have this. There's no way that we're going to play like that again. And then you come back, and I don't believe that, though. I just have seen too much from this team this year for me to feel confident they're going to win this game. They could. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they won the game, but I'm not picking them to win the game. If I pick them to win the game, that goes against everything I've watched from this. And because I just don't go off this year. There's too many pieces that are the same from last year, and just putting these last 2 years together, because I do believe that this system has been built over the last 2 years. They just have not shown me enough for me to feel confident they're going to win this game.
And you don't care who they're playing?
No, I mean, yeah. If they're playing the Giants, I probably would pick them to win. Yeah, or.
But you're not buying into the 2-4-2-4-2-4-2 formula here?
I'm gonna say, what is that? What is that?
Matt?
I know what it is.
No, tell me. I'm
I want to know.
intrigued.
Did you make this up on the fly?
No, I didn't.
I thought you were about to start rhyming.
What's happening here?
That's something like that. Okay. In the preseason, they lost the first game, Denver. Okay. Then they won 2. Lost 1, they won 2. Then they lost to Tampa, and then they won 4.
Right.
Then they lost to Philly, and then they won 2. Then they lost to Green Bay. Then they won 4.
I like
then
where
they
you're
lost to
going
Jacksonville.
here.
Then they won 2.
Oh, and now they about to 4. I like the math.
2-4-2-4-2-4.
Wow.
And that again, all of that is fun.
Bars.
But again, if I was to say that would take away. Nick, you know me as well as anybody that covers the team. Like, I have no life outside of covering this team. So to sit there and just all of a sudden push away what takes up probably 75% of my life and just go off of some
2-4-2-4-2.
I mean, that was bars, though,
ridiculous.
John. You got to give him credit. That was being bars.
Also, again, going back to the underdog thing and how I go off of recent history. And if I look at the last 10, 15 years of the NFL, I don't see any team that finishes a season the way that they did and then goes on a playoff run. I just don't see that. Now there's teams that have gone on and lost their last couple of games, and then they went on and maybe they made a run in the playoffs, but nobody that's gone on the run that this team is capable of doing. So for them to do that and make a deep playoff run to go to the NFC Championship game, it would surprise me a lot at this point.
I mean, they've won 3 road games in the playoffs in 42 years.
Yeah.
So to think that they're going to win 3 in 3 weeks,
In one postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
It sucks too because they're just not a real team that or a team that just so dominant. And I'm talking about in the NFC. The AFC's is loaded with the franchise quarterbacks and all that, but in the NFC, it's so wide open that you're just like, yeah, there could be a moment in that Tampa Bay game where something big happens. Just a play that things aren't going well and just sparks the rest of the team. Because I think this team's been flat for over a month. And so maybe something happens. I thought I was wrong. I thought that T.Y. Hilton catch against Philly was going to be that moment.
The thing that
would ignite it. And so there could be something that happens in Tampa Bay, whether maybe the chips are down, Micah comes up with a big play, Dak, something happens there. And I do believe that you can get momentum real fast, especially against what's in the NFC this year. You know, you would be getting by Brady. There's no Aaron Rodgers. There just isn't that boogeyman quarterback that you'd be scared of left after that. So I could see them getting hot. But again, for me to say that right now, that I expect that to happen, then I would be lying to you about what I've seen for the last month and a half.
But what you just stated obviously was the rest of the NFC doesn't look dominant at all.
No.
Basically, is what I'm taking out of that.
I mean, I think San Francisco to me, is the team that you would worry the most about, and they have Brock Purdy at quarterback.
Rookie at quarterback.
Nobody would be surprised if in the playoffs he just lays an egg in a game because, hey,
he's a rookie.
He's a rookie, right? And then, but I will say, 49ers are playing so well that even if he does that, I could still see him overcoming and win the game. But,
Kevin, when you look at the Cowboys, you look at the NFC, basically. Take the Cowboys into consideration, but when you see the NFC, are you saying to yourself, this is an NFC division that's prime for the picking for the Cowboys if they can get on a roll? Or you're saying, I see way too many holes in this to even think that they could pull off 4 victories in a row?
I think the part that concerns me most is that, and you were talking about how they looked flat over the last month, Jaron Kearse on Sunday said, I don't know why we aren't playing our best ball right now. And for one of the leaders on this team to have a pulse and say that they don't know what's going on with their quality of play going into the playoffs, and what to me is a wide open.
He is clearly the most vocal leader on that defense in terms of when it comes to talking to the media about things but with the defense behind the scenes. And Micah's there too, but Jaron Kearse is, and again, I'm going over the entire season. There's a reason why when he says stuff, to me, it makes my ears perk up because he's got a big voice in that locker room.
And this is the first time that you've heard him speak like that.
I mean, he's kept it real for me all season long.
Okay.
Like when I hear him talk and have quotes and things, like he's been the realest one I've heard, talk about the things that's going on with this team. But I mean, this NFC you would think is wide open given you talk about the quarterback play and what you see. The Cowboys, if you see the Cowboys team, I'm not saying they got to beat everybody by 37 points, but the quality of play that you saw against the Minnesota Vikings, or even in the game against Green Bay where they blew the 14-point lead, that's the kind of football team this team can be. But they also are the same team that needed a 98-yard drive against the Houston Texans to win a football game at AT&T Stadium. So they are what they. I think Sunday was a clear indication of what this team is and what they can't be sometimes. They can be the team that's 40-3 over the Vikings, or they're also the same team that can be really inconsistent, play down the competition.
I just was so stunned with how they played offensively and just how lost they looked on offense.
Yeah.
That was, to me...
And no run game either.
It was stunning. Again. It was stunning how the passing game, how there wasn't, other than that possession right before halftime, I thought there'd be at least 2 or 3 of those possessions in the second half. If you told me that Dak was going to play the entire second half, I'd be like, there'll be at least 2 more of those. This will take care of itself. I'm not even telling you, guaranteed they'd win the game. But how lost they looked on offense, I can't buy into, no. Biotish will be back in at center. Everything will be fine. I can't believe that. It was stunning.
Nick, Look, you've been a part of Dak's career since he signed, since he came on. This is probably the worst that you've seen number 4 look in his 7 years as a Dallas Cowboy.
And if it wasn't that one, it was Tampa, week 1.
Yes.
One of the 2. That's what I wrote. Usually when someone says, boy, it all came full circle, that's a good thing. But it wasn't. The season started like that, and then, it was good, and then it ended like that.
Yeah.
And then you got to go play him again. But I don't know. Is that where you were saying just where Dak's game was? Or?
No, you hit the nail on the head when you say that. And so my question is about fixing Dak, knowing that you're going into a playoff, because now he's shown you that he is a turnover machine.
Yeah.
But this is the worst time to be that.
Even those back-to-back throws. Like, just left you scratching your head. I don't care how you could be the most hardcore, blame every interception on somebody else all season long. When you watch those 2 plays back to back, again,
Kendall Fuller's like, really?
Scary, whatever word you want to use when you're watching that.
Is that an indictment? Did you say right there? That's papers.
So I'm not the type of person that all of a sudden I see that now I'm just judging the rest of Dak's career or anything like that. Like, I still think he's an excellent quarterback. I'm just saying, this is the worst time to have that happen going into the playoffs,
Yeah, I mean, like, before the game, everything was like, all right, he's lost twice since he came back from injury, both on the road, both in overtime. And, or a lot of these interceptions are, like I say all the time, is, this is a really good volleyball team. So they'll set it up for other guys, But you can't take that, for this Washington game, they just played like crap. And Dak that was one of Dak's worst games. They did not look interested in playing and blocking and anything, running. It was just as bad as you can get. And, as you said that earlier about you don't see teams that do this and then make a run. It's happened, But it usually happens.
So hold on, I looked it up. So this is what I got. I'm actually writing about this.
See, you messed up. You see,
that's why I stopped you, because I just didn't want to take it any further, because I didn't want you to say something.
Because
I'm writing about this for tomorrow on The Athletic. So 2017, the Jags, they lost their last 2 games, were 10-6, and then they went on to go to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Then you go back to 2015. Patriots lost their last 2 games of the regular season. They went on to go to the AFC Championship game. They lost to the Broncos. Okay. 2012, the Ravens. They lost 4 of their last 5 games, and obviously they went on to go to win the Super Bowl that year. And then 2009, the Saints and the Colts both lost at the end of the season. They each lost, the Saints 3 games, the Colts 2. And so, but that's 2021, nobody. 2020, no. 2019, 18, 16, 14, 13, 11, 10. Nobody made it to the AFC or NFC Championship.
But you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, but hold on. Hold on. Not really, because also all of those teams also – their first playoff game was at least at home, and none of them played in their last game as bad as the Cowboys did in their game. I would use them as an example because they didn't finish the season strong. They finished the season. I just went back and I looked at every single team for the last 13 years.
But if you went 10 years from now and you were trying to do this again, you'd skip over the Cowboys because you would just be like, they won 2 out of 3 to finish the season.
No. I'm talking off of teams that went to the AFC or NFC Championship. Yeah. So I wouldn't count the Cowboys because you'd have to go back. And why would I go back to the 90s? Because all those teams would never have lost late in the season like that. So I was just going off of teams that made it to the AFC, NFC Championship game because if you go back to training camp, that was one of those things. I mean, Jerry said they need to be viable in the playoffs. And so I didn't take that as, man, hopefully they beat Tampa. Right. It was can this team put it together to make a deep run? So if you're content with, hey, beat Tampa, lose the next, what I'm saying is not for you. I'm talking about this team on paper, health-wise, and where they are, coaching staff, obviously a coaching staff that people want to take their coaches from them. This, just much like last year, is set up for a team to make a deep run. It shouldn't be, man, if they could just win one playoff game. No, everything's there. Yes, did they have injuries to Biotish and Van Der Esch and Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis? Of course. That's not injuries to Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, CeeDee Lamb. They have so many key pieces that are there to go make this run. And let's be honest, other teams have tons of key injuries too. Nobody gets here unscathed. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it just, the recent history is definitely not on their side.
Jon Machota, ladies and gentlemen, he has so many facts in that phone of his. I don't know what else he has. Nick, why don't we just hold on to that, right? Whatever you were about.
No, go ahead. No. What were you going to say? You said about the 90s.
Oh, well, I mean, no one cares about back in the 90s. I mean, I do remember in 95 when they won the Super Bowl, they were a train wreck. I mean, the Cowboys were a train wreck right then, just dealing with a lot of issues. Had no business, even going to the playoffs and I mean, they go into the playoffs, but they didn't think they'd have home field, and they kind of backed into home field, and then they took it from there. But I mean,
of those teams though I was mentioning, I think the Ravens are the best example for this Cowboys team because
they had to go
it's Joe Flacco. Yeah, they had to go on the road.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have a home game.
I don't know if they did or not.
Okay.
I want to say that they might have started. They might have had their first game, but even that's the best example because even if you go back to 2009, I mean, we're talking about Drew Brees and that Saints, Peyton Manning and that Colts team. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly a good comparison.
Yeah, and this is where I'm just interested to see how it's all gonna work because these. And McCarthy said, like, this team's human, players are human and all that, which nobody liked to hear that. But it is true from the standpoint of every time they've done anything in the last 6 weeks, most of whether it be talk radio or whatever, like everyone's over it. Everyone's over it. Like we'll see what they do in the playoffs, or great. But they're gonna break my heart in the playoffs or whatever. Everybody's looking at the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think it's only human nature for the Cowboys not to. So I think they've done a pretty good job up until Sunday of sticking to it. They lied and said that they were focused on winning that game when they weren't. They were not. Whether they wanted to win is fine, but they didn't come out and play.
You know what the team looks like? It looks like a team that, honestly, the Vikings win said to them, we're ready. We'll mess with anybody out there. Let's start the playoffs right now. And ever since then, it's kind of like, all right, we'll go through the motions. We know we can. And they kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. And then that Washington game, if it wasn't for that Washington game, I would not feel the way that I do. But that Washington game, to me, was jarring.
That's dangerous. You're talking about flipping a switch.
2-4-2-4-2-4-2.
Right.
We're going to take our last break here on Media Match, and we'll be right back. I got you.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field. United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This week! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to Media Mash.
What's in Jon Machota's blue phone? We don't know, but it's full of facts, and we scared of him. Don't have a hot take, because Jon Machota gonna shoot you down.
With them facts,
hey,
the numbers.
I'm glad you said that. I'm writing a story specifically about that.
I just didn't want you to go too far with something. Not that you were, but I didn't know what you were going to say, so I just wanted to.
I wasn't going back to the Ravens. And,
I didn't say that.
But I was going back to the Saints in 2009. I do remember that, because I remember when the Cowboys beat the Saints. That
started that run,
and it was like they were 13-0, and the Cowboys came in. And look what we did! Look, we made footballs. It's like, they lost to the Bucs too. You're like, what? Damn! And they lost again. You're like, damn!
Why does this keep happening?
Oh man!
So guys, this last question, last segment here, I want to outline the good, the bad, the ugly of this season, because you've had a 17 game.
I got the ugly.
You got the, all right. Okay. And you got the
touche.
Nick has the ugly covered.
Week 1, week 18.
Wow.
That was the ugly.
Wow, thanks.
All right, so we're gonna go good, bad, and ugly. So, Kevin, what you got, man?
I'll take the bad, I guess.
Okay. You gonna give John the good?
That's fine.
I mean, he's got all the facts, so I mean, it's only natural,
Okay.
I guess. I would say the bad would be the run game the second half of the season, because Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, the balance that they had offensively was fun to watch, and helping Cooper Rush in this defense and winning games. The second half of the year, the run game has really not been what you wanted it to be, given how effective they were and what they needed to be for this offense. So that would be the bad for me, alongside with the defense at times. But the run game to me is what bothers me right now.
Yeah, the good is definitely that Vikings game. That's the best I've seen the Cowboys since I've covered the team. That, to me, will always be the game I look at. And since then, I've heard players in the locker room, they mentioned that, like getting back to that, playing to that level. It just so complete on both sides. When I saw that, and again, I would have been impressed if they did that to anybody above the Bears and Texans. I don't want to go that low, but anybody else. But then the fact that, it's a team that won the NFC North, it's a playoff team. So to do that and just play that thorough on all, if that was the game that they just played on Sunday, if they finished the season with that Vikings game, man, everybody would be picking the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl.
The Vikings are 8-1 at home this year, just like Dallas, 8-1 at home, and they've outscored their opponents by 16 points at home. So it's because of that 37-point loss that kind of screws that whole thing. Cowboys have outscored their opponents at home 8-1. They've outscored by 90. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what you should do when you win most of those games. But that's why the Vikings, the Vikings are an interesting team, because they
They've won so many close games.
They're winning games.
Yeah.
It's so funny that these games
It's like TCU. Really?
Are long.
Oh, I mean,
seriously, think about it. They win a lot of games, and you're like, really? Are they that good? And no one ever thought the Vikings were that good. They're like, yeah, they're record, but they're, But then they kept winning, until they faced somebody that just kind of stomped them. But
it's just funny how the games, like, you cared most about what happens in the second half or in the fourth quarter of these games, but it's funny how often something will happen early in the game and just sets the tone for the rest of the game. And I think of in Washington, just the special teams, errors that are just so uncharacteristic of this team. But then I think of that Vikings game, man, when Mike on that very first chance to rush the passer, sack, fumble, I mean, it just set the tone for the rest of that game. It was like one of those things where as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, if they win this game, convincing. I didn't think it would be that way. I'm writing about that play because that was so crazy how that happened. The very first time he gets a chance to rush the passer, not only gets the sack, but he gets the fumble, and it just took the air out of what I think might be the loudest building, or it's one of. Maybe I just feel that way because it's an open-air press box, but so loud in there up until that point, and it just it set the tone for that. I mean, if you could pick a way to start that game against Tampa, that would be the perfect way to do it.
And it's also how that you've got to remember how the game was week before against Green Bay, and Parsons was kind of neutralized again.
Yeah.
Didn't do a whole lot. He kind of called it out as the week Carson started talking as well. They had a team meeting. All that stuff about making plays, being accountable was the word. Right. And then three plays into that game, here he comes rushing, Kirk Cousins, who.
The one thing I will not be saying at the end of this season is we'll always have Minnesota. So I do not want to be. I don't want to come back and say we'll always have Minnesota.
Yeah. You can say that. Honestly, you can say that every year. Last year they won it with Cooper Rush in Minnesota. The year before they won it with Andy Dalton in Minnesota. I mean, the Cowboys just have their number up there.
They do.
Give me the ugly.
The ugly, I think, was just the game Sunday. I mean, you can make a case for week one with all the injuries and stuff too, but at least there was some time to, some reflection there. But just the way that they played that game, knowing that there were boxes of NFC East champion hats somewhere in the sideline.
I never even thought of that. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, they're getting shipped out somewhere.
Ecuador.
Right now.
I want one.
Somewhere's getting one.
You want one of those?
No, don't give John one of those hats, please.
2022 NFC East championship.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it. That's a good point.
Oh yeah, somewhere there's Buffalo Bills Super Bowl champion hats. From the 90s.
I want one of those too.
Yeah, I'm just saying they were there. And T-shirts or whatever, but they didn't play like that. And like you said, it was just drop fumble. I mean, Turpin and Anger but just that offensive line couldn't block anyone. I mean, it was just an ugly game.
They miss Terrence Steele right now, man.
What if Mike McCarthy showed them those shirts and hats before the game, and it backfired? I use that as an example because Mike McCarthy's really well known for he had all the guys on the Packers get sized for their rings the night before the Super Bowl. When they beat the Steelers.
Really?
So,
yeah. Hopefully he didn't do that. Please let that be a story that you're writing on.
Discover, right?
Jeez, that'd be the last thing that we need to see.
What's Micah's hat size?
Oh my God! Pause. We don't need that, guys. I will say this. Profound amount of respect for the three of you. Thank y'all for letting me rock with y'all today on Media Mash. I appreciate it. That's been our time. Newy Scrubs will be back in the building on tomorrow. So for my man Nick Eatman, for Kevin Gray, for Jon Machota from Atlanta, we did it again, guys. Thank you so much.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!